We are talking about apostrophes, and I have intentionally left a mistake here. If I just want to talk about apostrophes in the plural, I'm not going to use an apostrophe. So apostrophes are not used for making words plural. They are used for showing ownership. So I'm going to take this out because if I just say we are talking about apostrophes today, there's no apostrophe. Every time I teach apostrophes, I have students then wanting to put them on everything where they add S. So remember, don't add them. We use them to show ownership, um, not being plural. So that possession is another way of saying that. It's the possessive. So notice if a lot of you are writing these contractions like this, and I really want you to write out the full word. For formal English, we write these words out. And the other thing that helps you with is you're not going to get things confused. For example, if I say to you, it's raining, this is the correct one that means the same thing as it is raining. But we have another one that is a pronoun, and it's its and it means something different. It means that it belongs to it. So if I'm talking to you about the building that we're supposed to be having class in, and I tell you that its air conditioning um, is broken, and I'm saying it's air conditioning, that's when I'm going to use it in a sentence like that. Its air conditioning is broken. And notice there is no apostrophe on the pronoun. Now, when we have any old noun, a pronoun, remember, takes the place of nouns. We're going to be talking about those this week as well. But the nouns, when we use those, we have to with any noun that's not a pronoun. Pronouns take the place, like I, she, he, me. We never use apostrophes with the pronouns, because then you've created a contraction, which means something like it is, or he's would be he is. And so we're always, always, always going to write these out in our formal writing. So the writing that you do for your papers, your homework in this class, you're going to practice by using the formal way like this. Now, if I want to talk about some girls who went to camp, and and we have one girl and she is in a room, I would say the girl's room. Notice that it belongs to her, so I added this apostrophe S here. Now it's different when I have two girls. So when I have two and then I have girls, I'm going to make it plural first, and I'm going to put the S on. I'm not even going to think about the apostrophe yet, so I'm going to put that rule up here. So if you need to make it plural, make plural first, and you should write this down in your notes, and then add apostrophe. So we want to see what we're left with. And this will make sense because we have, just like we have with verbs, we have regular nouns that we just add S to make plural, like girls. And we have other ones that are different. So when I say the girls' room, when the plural noun ends in S, I'm going to put the apostrophe after it and then put room. Okay? Now this changes when I have a word that is not plural. So if I have the man's hat, so far, you're with me, but what is the plural of man? It's not man's, right? It's men. So if I said to you the men, and I want to talk about their hats, the men left their hats, the men's hats. Notice that this is plural. I can't make it plural twice. So I'm going to treat it almost like it's singular, and I'm going to put an apostrophe S on it. This happens for a lot of words, like women is another one. If I want to go to the women's room and I have one woman's purse, you can see that we have these different kinds of things. So we have a lot of words in English that the plural doesn't have an S. Now, when it does end in S, then you will put it on the in after the S like this. So always see what you're left with. So if you're left with something like men, you're going to put an apostrophe S. You can't make it plural twice. So for example, when you start looking at the multiple choice test, something like this is going to be wrong. Okay, so you don't want to do something like that. Okay, we want to look at what the correct one is. We have all kinds of things that happen in English. If I have two women, Tracy and Vaughn, and they are roommates in the same room, I would say Tracy and Vaughn's room, and I can make a whole sentence, is messy. Okay. Now, say Tracy and Vaughn got mad at each other and they move across the hall from each other, or they have different rooms. So, if they have different rooms, and I'm just going to put it like that, and they have different rooms, uh, I need to put the apostrophe S on both of them because they have different rooms. So if you have a brother or a sister and you have the same parents, you would put both of your names, and the S is only going to go on this one. So if you say Mary and Sally's mother, you're going to put the apostrophe S just on the one like this. If they are different rooms, then you are going to put it here. So if you talk about you and your roommate and your parents and their different parents, you are going to put the S on both. So that's another rule that you can look up. And so when you forget these rules, there is a place you can look it up. Now we have real rules with names. Like I would tell you that you're in my class this semester, so you were in Ms. McCarthy's class, okay? And I would tell you that most of the time until this year, because my son, my youngest one, just went to college, just like a lot of you all. But if when they're home on the break and I invite you all over for dinner, I could say that you are going to the McCarthy's house and you're going to make it plural. You never change anybody's spelling of their name. You're just going to add the S. So you're going to the, oh, and I have a typo there. That should be the McCarthy's. You're going to the McCarthy's house. Okay. Oh, sorry, you're not adding another S. That's a mistake. Let me take that off. So this is the correct one. You're going to the McCarthy's house. And, my demonstrating by accidentally typing some of these mistakes will show you how easy it is to make a mistake with these. And you really need to you have to be really careful with your auto check and your spell checker because it will put all kinds of weird mistakes in here. Okay. Now we have this name. We have some odd names like my friend Miss Jones, and she really does teach the same class that I do. So if you were in Miss Jones's class, notice her last name is Jones, and we can say Joneses because it's just one syllable. So the rule in English is to go ahead and treat it just like that. We're going to Miss Jones's house, okay? She has a family. She has children at her house, and I'm just looking at my name. I spelled my name wrong too. There we go. Let's fix that. Okay. So if we go to the Joneses' house, we can say Jones, and then I need to make it plural. And we actually can say Joneses, and I know it looks weird, and there's an expression in English called keeping up with the Joneses, which means, and a lot of you talked about that in your papers when you had some off-brand shoes or something that you had to wear that you didn't like, and you were telling me that you wanted to have what everybody else had at school, and it wasn't fair. There's a little cliche or expression, a cliche we want to avoid in our writing, by the way, if I wrote that on your paper. But keeping up with the Joneses, and we spell it like this, but if we're going to the Joneses' house, we're going to do that. So remember my little rule that's really important about making it plural first and then figuring out what the heck to do with the apostrophe. So this is probably one of the hardest examples right here. I want to show you, I've already pulled it up in the Little Seagull Handbook that you find in course documents. You can go to page 399, and you'll notice that on that's 415 on the actual PDF, but it starts on page 300 and it shows you these slang examples like I'm loving it, which was on the old McDonald's ad. But on McDonald's, notice it does have an apostrophe in it because the last name of the person who founded it was McDonald and an apostrophe S. So notice these examples that they're giving you, the park's seats, Plato's Republic, and here's Bill Gates. That's just like the Jones example that I had. By the way, if you have a last name that ends in S that is more than one syllable, and I like to think you can think of biblical things like Jesus and Moses. You could say Jesus is, because notice it's hard to say Jesus's or Moses's. We'd say Jesus's, I don't know, shoes. Okay, so you can see that you're just going to put the apostrophe after it. Any last name that ends in S that's more than one whether it's singular or plural, we're just going to put the S, the apostrophe after it. So that's probably the weirdest, strangest thing about apostrophes that we have. And then also the irregular kinds of nouns that we have. So our little seagull handbook is a great place to look this up. It's showing you some plural nouns. And here's the one I just showed you. So you can see I'm not making it up. Women's minds, men's minds. Notice neighbors is a regular old noun that we added S to. So you have the apostrophe after it. Here's a last name, Strauss. And I guess it's one syllable, so we added es to it. That's like Miss Jones and the Joneses, just like I showed you. And then we're going to talk about personal pronouns in a little bit. So notice this is page 400, and it pretty much shows you a lot of the strange things that happen with apostrophes. Oh, here's joint possession. This is what I just showed you. So if two people own the same thing or they wrote the same book together, there's just the S here. If they're transplants, they didn't have the same one, you're going to put the apostrophe S on both. Notice the Surgeon General's report. We're going to avoid contractions, but you should know how to spell them correctly. We have plurals. There's only times we don't usually use them in MLA for things like this, like if we're saying eights or the 1950s. Notice TVs. The only time that we do it is something like here where I say, I bet you're all going to get straight A's. And the reason we do it is because it looks like the word as. So there's only times when it would be confusing, like you have letters that you're talking about where you can't tell it. But MLA style has pretty much dropped the apostrophe from talking about years like 1950s. I'm going to stop right here. You can take the quizzes. Make sure that you have the book open in another tab while you take your quizzes on apostrophes so that you can look up rules as you go and you can take the quiz as many times as you like. Until next Monday.